So there's an inherent weakness in most guitars right here at the headstock. You've probably seen different guitars that have a broken headstock or a cracked headstock. And if you're a repair guy, you've probably been faced with finding ways to fix that. Well, the good news is there is an awesome way to fix that. It's called a guitar backstrap, and it's where you apply veneers to the back of the headstock and in a specific fashion bring them down into the neck shaft. And it's important to do that the right way. And if you do, it can help to minimize the chances of a headstock ever being broken or cracked in the first place. It can increase sustain and even make the guitar sound a little better, be a little more responsive, and you can use it to repair broken headstocks as well. We're going to talk more about this backstrap and why I love it so much for all my guitars in this video. Welcome to this video. My name's Tom Bills. Today we're going to be talking about the guitar backstrap. I'm going to share with you some more information on what's really going on with this thing. Why does it work so well? How can adding this improve your guitar? And I mean, it's somewhat obvious how it can help strengthen this area, but there's more to it than first meets the eye. So if you're new to this, I think this is really going to be insightful, and hopefully you're going to come away with some deeper understanding of what's going on here with this whole situation where the string tension is affecting the neck and all that kind of stuff. And I know it really helped me a lot, so I'm excited to share it with you here. What I'm going to do is show you a clip from a brand new course that I just released. It's called The Art of the Guitar Backstrap, and in that course I go through step by step my entire process, tools, and the whole thing, even all the physics and everything that's behind this whole thing. So if you're interested in that, or if you're interested in learning more about the Luthier's Edge Luthier School, which is what that course is part of, I'll put links in the description to all that in case you want to check it out. So I think now, without further ado, let's go ahead and cut over to this next clip where I'm going to explain all that stuff. And this is the introduction to the course, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's go check it out. Hey, welcome to this course. I am so glad you decided to check this out. I think you're going to find it incredibly helpful, and my hope is that you will learn the steps and you will learn the key concepts of how to successfully add the element of the backstrap onto your guitars. But at the same time, I want to mention this right away up front. Be watching and be thinking about this from the perspective that many of the details and concepts and things that I'm going to be showing you through the course of this course are things that can be applied to so many different areas of your guitar making. And so just be viewing it in that way. So we learn the steps of how to do this, but the learning of the backstrapping, the way I'm trying to structure this course, is kind of a vehicle for helping you gain a deeper understanding for many different small little things that can be applied to help lift your entire guitar making as a whole to a higher level. So be thinking about that as we go through, okay? So we're going to be creating this beautiful backstrap that I have here on the back of this headstock in this course. And I think there's a couple of things I want to mention here as we launch out onto this journey, because it is a bit of a journey that we're about to go on here. And I think the first part is just kind of a little bit of background on why I started doing the backstrapping and how I kind of fell into this in my own personal career. And it started very simply. I just saw some guitars. I think it was Tom Rebecki's guitar that I saw first. And he just did such a nice job on that backstrap, and I was like, wow, that is just so elegant and beautiful. I've got to figure out how to do that. And a bunch of time went by, but finally I figured out a way to do it, and I sort of started developing this entire system, which I'm going to show you. And it became a staple of every single guitar that I build. I don't want to build a guitar without it ever again. And you'll see why as we talk about all the benefits that it has, in addition to being beautiful. But the part about it being beautiful I wanted to mention, because when I went and I spent a little time learning from a luthier named Boaz El-Kayam, and one of the things that he told me was that if you see if you see two competing designs, and he told the story of this competition that was held where these two military jet manufacturers, the government, I guess, probably the U.S. government, was going to award a contract to whichever one of these two companies made the best new fighter jet or something like that. And one had all this great tech specs and everything, but it was really ugly. The other one on paper looked a little less, but it was really beautiful, and just when you looked at it, it was amazing. And of course, the one that was more beautiful performed better. And the point of the story was that there's something about the way that we perceive things, and I think one of the keys to really being successful in guitar making is developing and really paying attention to and being aware of that sensibility of when you see something and it's beautiful and elegant and it's just right and you know it. And that's a big part of what we do. And that's kind of what led me into this. So I started because I saw that and I was like, that is important. It's beautiful. I need to figure that out. But as I got into it more and as time went on, I then learned why this is so important, and it's way more than just looking good. And it has to do with a key principle that I've mentioned before called stress concentration and stress concentration avoidance. That's not the only thing, but I think that's one of the big factors that makes this effective. So let me show you really quickly just a little bit about this to make sure, in case you haven't heard of it before. So the best, and I could almost do a course just on this whole stress concentration and stress concentration avoidance topic and show all different examples of this throughout the building of the guitar, because there's so many places where I use this. But you may be able to identify some of those places yourself once you understand the concept. So I've got just a little maple veneer here, and you can see I can bend this quite a bit. I mean, I could bend it way further than this and it won't break. The reason it doesn't break is because the force of my hands pushing in on this, the force is evenly distributed across this entire thing. There's no point where that force is concentrating. So I think of it like water. The stress and the force is looking for a place to puddle and pool. It's looking for that low spot to go gather in. And so if I take this and I just put a little scratch, I mean, this really isn't even much of a cut. So I just put a tiny little scratch, and then the minute I go to bend it, it snaps. It snaps because, and I didn't even bend close to what I bent it before, but what happened is that stress is no longer evenly distributed. It has a place to pool up and to gather, and then it gains force and momentum kind of in a way, and then it can impact and act upon the structure. And this is the way I think of it. I'm not a professional scientist or anything like that. This is just the way that I've sort of conceptualized all this over the years and been able to apply it successfully. So if we take this back to, well, let's start with this one. So if we take this back to the way a guitar is made, or the way the neck is made many times, is you can get an example like this. It's more visible here than it is on the other one, that this was one big chunk of wood. All the grain direction was going like this across. And when I cut this headstock going back like this, the grain is running this way, which leads to one of the biggest weak points of almost all guitars, especially the ones made this way. Even if you do a scarf joint, there's still a bit of a weakness right there, and it's one of the most common, like, serious structural failure points is where the headstock breaks. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the tension from the strings, or from an impact, if you drop the guitar or something, has a weak point here in these grains to focus, pool up, just like we saw in the veneer, and then cause it to break. So when enough force is applied onto it, instead of the whole thing flexing evenly like that veneer did before I put the mark in it, it's essentially like the veneer with a mark in it right here. And so when we put our backstrapping on, what we're doing is we are creating this very smooth and gentle, with no like cuts, if you will, no like focus points. The method of laying this out and doing this is very intentional. As we go through this, you'll see this, but now after seeing this video, you'll understand why this curve needs to be so gradual, and the way it's inlaid into the neck shaft has to be so nice and even elegant, beautiful. And what that does is it makes it so that the stress that's being applied to this headstock is evenly distributed and sort of dispersed and diffused back smoothly into the neck shaft and out through the headstock, so that you get a much stronger headstock, a more beautiful headstock. And I find that it increases sustain because the headstock is acting as less of a shock absorber or a micro hinge, and it's forcing more of the string energy back into the top of the guitar to load the system more efficiently like we want it to, and it's stealing less of that string energy and wasting it on just wiggling the headstock, which doesn't make us a lot of audible sound. So that's a little bit of background on how I got into this whole thing, but it's been absolutely wonderful ever since I did start using this backstrap element. Hopefully now you got a little bit more understanding of why it's so important, how it works, and the next thing to do is to jump into this course where I can show you my entire system of how to lay this out, design it, the tools, and all the steps of going from start to finish to create a backstrap like this, so you'll be able to add this element, this beautiful, elegant design element and structural improvement to all the guitars that you make too. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a few new things. The part specifically about the stress concentration avoidance, that is huge. And when I really got my head wrapped around that, I was able to improve my guitars in many different areas. And we talk about that a lot over in my other courses on the Luthier's Edge. If you want to learn more about the course, The Art of the Guitar Backstrap, and learn all the steps on how to do this properly, you can check that out in the links below. I'll also link to the Luthier's Edge itself if you want to look at that. And I think that wraps it up for this video. So if you're not subscribed yet, hope you'll subscribe and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time.